Everyone, and welcome to OneMicNite Talk, the podcast that brings you real talk to inspire your daily lives. My name is Marcos Luis. I'm an actor and filmmaker and entrepreneur. I'm here with my co-host, Stephen Antony Beasley. He's a singer-songwriter, musician, and public health advocate. And we have something to talk to you guys about. But first, I want to check in and see how you've been. It's been a while since we had an episode. How you doing, Stephen?
I know, I'm good. Just, riding the wave of late Q4 and all of it.
It's the holidays.
For the holidays, preparedness for the shifting of the calendar year and all of the things.
I'm sorry, are you one of those people? Well, two things. One, now, since you have kids, are you into the holiday spirit? Do you, what do you do for the holidays?
I'm really only into the spirit of trying to safely connect with as many loved ones as possible, and spend just as much quality time with people that are important as possible. I really don't. I have to care about other things, blah, blah. But honestly, that's like number one with a bullet for me. So we had a really cool, intimate Thanksgiving. I don't really know what Christmas is going to look like. We've sort of managed, well, one kid can't speak, but we've managed expectations with the other regarding like the Christmas of it all. So I don't really know what all that's going to look like. But togetherness is definitely like on the menu. How about for you?
That's really interesting because I feel the same way. And I don't know if that's just of age or if that's the thing that everybody's doing now, because the expectations for, like, when you were a kid, you expect all these pet presents and, you go crazy over Christmas. It's just, Christmas spirit. But I think as you get older, it's more so connecting because we've been so disconnected through the course of the year that this actually is the time where people have time off and they can reconnect, and I feel good about that. So for me, Thanksgiving, same thing. I ended up working on Thanksgiving Day, but the important thing for me was to connect with my mother a couple of days later. So we enjoyed, the time together. And yeah, that's what I was looking forward to, just connecting with people. And in the weeks coming up, just connecting with people that I haven't been able to get together with this entire year. Because like I said, now everybody has more time off.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That list is so long too. Like the list gets so long of like, oh yeah, I should see so and so and so and so. But everybody will get to it when they can.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's important too. Everybody understands, but it is important to keep those people that are important to you in your life. And yeah, we would love to do it all year round, but it's almost impossible. It's almost impossible.
Yeah.
So what are we talking about today? 2022 has come to a close. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
And at the end of the year, I think we kind of all reminisce in conjunction with what we were just talking about the people that we lost. In pop culture, we lost quite a few people. And I'm wondering how this affects you. Maybe we can go down the list of some of the people we lost and then just how it affects people in general, losing people in the holiday, as we were just talking about, the impact.
Yeah. One thing that's really, really coming out for me as far as social media makes us talk about things more, and whether or not it's surface or shallow or just people being more expressive because it's only the movements of their thumb and not person to person interaction. Like, what's fascinating to me is to see the dynamics of how people process loss, like as I scroll through a timeline, as opposed to before, maybe that would have just been like in-person dynamics that would be so limited. Like you would see, like I feel like before social media, you would have such limited experiences of different kinds of grief. Now, when someone dies, you can experience how like a cornucopia of people's ways that they process grief. Like, I mean, recently, so if we're talking about hip hop culture, we're definitely talking about folks like Takeoff on November 1st, and another really influential hip hop person, Hovain, who was a beloved manager for a lot of hip hop folks. And what would and also in addition to social media, you have like podcasting where people, you know, like you and me are getting together and just talking for hours on end.
Right.
And I, you know, I'm really noticing that folks are having these outlets to express themselves about something like grief in their own authentic way, whatever that authentic way is, even in the moment of them just picking up their phone or doing a podcast. Like I, the Takeoff and Hovain, I've been so touched by how um, younger folks and also people of color, but specifically like Black men, have gotten together to express like this loss. Like one of my favorite podcasts is the Joe Budden podcast.
Hmm.
And the way that those guys, you know, most of them Black men in their 40s, and I think there's a couple white guys who are on there too, like, but just the way that these men were getting together and processing how they felt about the one death was of course a homicide,
Hmm.
and it was a younger person who was, you know, at the precipice of like doing so many more great things and had already done so much great things. And they were these men who were like 20 years older than Takeoff, and being so, you know, being so proud of him for what he had accomplished with his folks Migos, and then also being so heartbroken about the loss of what he could bring to the world. And
Right.
I thought that that was so fucking beautiful
Yeah, it
for
is.
them
It
to
really is.
spend an hour
Mhm.
talking about.
Right.
I mean, it's so to me. And so, and then in a, unfortunately, the next week, I believe November 25th. Okay, so so about, you know, the at the end of the month, the beginning and the end of the month, there's this other death that happens. This Hovain, his name was full name was Jonathan Hovain Hilton, and so like just this other beautiful expression of grief. Like, hey, this was our brother, this person, you know, some people knew him, some people didn't, but they had all experienced him as like this positive force in their community. And they sat there and processed how they felt about this person's life and about this person's death in their own individual way. And
Right.
I think that that is such a beautiful thing to be able to experience um,
I think so too. And what do you
at the
think
time
has
of
what do you think has been the catalyst for that? I mean, do you think it has been social media, or do you think it's always been there, or do you think that uh, people are it's a new generation and a new way of thinking, so it allows people to you know, verbalize and physicalize the, you know, grief in a different way
I
that we're
think
allowed to, that we have the permission to now.
I think that we are so inundated with information in a way that no other society has been since time began, that perhaps we're so inundated with information that we can no longer as a society hold in what we're actually thinking and feeling the way that we used to. I mean, I don't we desperately wish that some people could hold in their thoughts and their opinions and how they process things. Like, God, I wish some people could hold it in. But you know, I think it's, to answer your question in a way that's concise, I think that we receive so much more information and so many more perspectives than we ever did. And it um it does give permission, to pour out, because we have ways to pour out.
Right. Is
We
it
can
too
get
much?
together.
Is it
Huh?
too much?
Oh,
Is it too much to
absolutely,
open up,
absolutely
open,
too much.
yeah,
Oh,
like open up Facebook and you see all the things that are
yeah.
going on. Are people doing it for the attention? Do they need it? Do they, what's the real motivation behind it? I don't
I
know,
think
but
that there are as many motivations as there are people in this world.
yeah,
I think that some folks have duplicitous motivations. I don't think that's the most clear way to communicate what I'm trying to say, but here goes. So, on one end, folks who are on social might want to get more likes or get some attention or get reactions or even get support through what they want to express, right? But then on the flip side of that coin, maybe they actually do care. Maybe they do have like real emotions about whoever just died. And maybe, just maybe, something in them is tying a thread to someone that they lost in IRL, in real life.
right.
And I think that that's really a beautiful thing about the way that we as a society react to all these deaths of prominent folks. And perhaps I think that I feel like we talk through death and grief in a way that we hadn't before, because of it. And I think that that's really cool.
I would have to agree with you on that one. Yeah, we definitely do. I mean, I think it's a lot more open now to talk about it.
Yeah.
And, I'm not sure how I personally feel about, I mean, I guess, yeah, about posting about someone dying in your family and all those things. I guess if you need to do that or you want to let people know, that's fine.
Mhm.
Whatever your motivation is, I think it's definitely something to help you in deal with that, deal with the grief, or deal with the loss of the person that's close to you, or make some connection to them for a final time. Yeah, it's
And,
definitely necessary.
and some people make the connection to them forever, because some people on the anniversary of certain people's deaths in their circle post on that page or post about them, or when the anniversary comes up of that person's homegoing or maybe their birthday and there's still a picture there, you see it,
Right.
and they talk about that person every year.
You're absolutely
You
right.
know?
I have one friend who we lost. He was in our circle of friends. I wasn't as close to him as my other friend, but every year, every birthday, I mean,
Mhm.
the Facebook page continues to go. Pictures
Mhm.
are posted. Conversation continues to happen. This has
Yeah.
been at least 15 years now.
Mhm.
And I guess it's not really grief. It's more of a celebration. And yes, you miss the person, but it's a celebration.
Mhm.
We still have you present in our mind and in our
Yeah.
thoughts. So, it's a way to hang on.
That's significant for me because because as we age, there comes a point where we are mourning or celebrating or having grief over a person who has now been gone from us longer than they were present.
Yes.
Like, so, or in the equal amount of time. Like, so I have folks who have now been gone more time than I knew them.
Then you knew them. Yeah.
They're either family members. I don't have a friend. I don't have anyone in my friendship circle who I have that experience for. But it is this very interesting experience um to have this experience of a person who has been gone longer than you knew them when they were alive. So
Yeah.
is that your experience with your friend now, or how long did you know that person?
I didn't know him that well. I
Oh,
met him, and then a couple of years later, we kept in contact, a circle of friends, and then he passed away. I was more friends with his best friend,
mm-hmm.
so I was brought into the circle of friends. But
Mm-hmm.
back to what you were saying, I have people in my life who have been dead longer than they've been alive. So I feel the same way. I don't know. I miss the people. I miss the person. I know the people that are close to me miss the person. So yeah, it's an interesting thing. We had a situation where my excuse me, my niece passed away
Mm-hmm.
at a young age.
I'm sorry.
And so thank you. So we had to decide what we wanted to do with her social media.
Mm-hmm.
Do you keep it going? Do you keep,
Mm-hmm.
or do you, take it away?
Yeah.
So that's important too. Yeah, as obviously I'm a filmmaker, so I was able to document the funeral in a way where it was tasteful,
Mm-hmm.
and we have memories, and I made it a private memory for us and the people that are close to her to share. It's not something that I posted. It's just something that we have as a
Mm-hmm.
memory.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
yeah,
great.
it's an interesting thing. Yeah, it's a really interesting thing.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like it's you and or a community is in touch with a person's uh, intrinsic value long past the expiration of their earthly experience.
Right.
And every time that comes up on my social media, for a couple of people in particular, who I think that I've almost crossed the road to where like they've been gone and an equal amount of time to the time that I had known them when they were alive. Just that all of us can wear a piece of the fabric
Yeah.
that God wove together um, to in His creation of that person, and
Right.
I think I'm trying to verbalize it as I'm thinking about
Yeah.
uh, the beauty of what it is and why I value um, remembering those who have passed away. And, and I've experienced that always on like a micro level, but now that I've had some time to just reflect about death a little deeper in recent years, um, and maybe because there has been so much death. I mean, death is very much a part of this, the early part of this decade, right? Um, it's very much, a fixture um, um, of this decade. And so, yeah, I think that's something I'm finding the beauty of in the macro. Like, of course, of course, some people bastardize it in clout chasing,
Yeah.
or like attention seeking, but there's these other moments in the public sphere where you see people processing grief about public figures or either people they've known. And if the and these people just so happen to have an audience, and you can see real beauty, real authenticity, real feelings, and the real value add that someone um, has blessed people with. And and that is just really, as we were coming together between us
Right.
about what we're going to talk about today, that's what pops out.
Interesting.
If that makes any sense.
I
Yeah.
often wonder, you touched on it a little bit about how people think about death now.
Mhm.
We have so many mass shootings. We have so many, in our community, and I hate to say it, black on black crime and fatalities.
But it's an
Um,
American, but it's such, but that mass shooting piece
that mass
is
shooting piece is, yeah,
American history.
American. Yeah,
That is
for
American.
sure, for sure that. And I was just adding on to it with the black on black crime, but
Yeah, sure.
I'm wondering, has the way that people think about death has changed? It's like they don't care. They don't care about themselves, so they don't care about life. So
Mm,
they, the mass shooting, you know,
yeah.
it just, I know growing up, I'm going to tell a little story, and I haven't told anyone this. Growing up, I've always thought that I would die before I was 42.
Hmm.
I had my paternal grandmother died when she was 36. My
Mhm.
paternal grandfather died in his 20s. My father died when I was 19.
Mm,
My maternal grandfather died when I was young too. So all
mm,
that stuff in your mind, those are kind of like traumatic experiences in the
mhm.
back of your brain. So you think as a child growing up, well, maybe my fatality is coming soon too.
Sure.
Yeah. But now as I get older, I'm kind of embracing it all. I
Mhm.
don't even think about it. I don't have any feelings about it at all. All I know is that I want to leave a legacy. I want to leave something
Mhm.
for the people behind me,
That's great.
not family and others,
Mhm. Mhm.
so that's kind of how I think about it. I don't even think about what happens to me afterwards. I live my
Mhm.
life hopefully in a good way, at least by my standards
Mhm.
and hopefully by society standards. So, what happens, I don't know if I think about that. That's a whole nother episode. Talk about that
Mhm.
later.
Sure.
But yeah,
I think
what do you
that
think?
we are a similar age, and I remember I didn't have there were people in my familial circle who died at young ages, but I think that I don't have the data on this, but I remember thinking about dying young, and something about it in our generation, I feel like was kind of, it was a little bit glamorized. I remember watching a lot of things about people dying young, like living fast and dying hard, or I
Yep.
don't know, like just I feel like there's something to that, like for you beyond just what was happening in your familiar circle. I think that something about dying young, because I thought I would too.
hmm
I think there was something that we were ingesting from a like media
Right.
perspective.
Yeah, definitely. We
Well,
can go down.
well,
We can go down the
uh,
list of celebrities and things in the media too that, the young actor dies or the young singer dies.
yeah.
Somebody in a plane crash who was just at the pinnacle of their career. They had so
Mhm.
much to offer. Yeah, like those
Yeah.
things, they die and they die famous,
Hmm.
but it's tragic.
Yeah. But
So
then
yeah, you
also,
think about that
well,
too.
I forgot about the one of the ultimate things. I mean, at that time, if we're talking about the 80s and 90s, there was messaging, about the life expectancy of like black men,
Yeah,
of like black men. So maybe that also
sure.
played into the thought that it could be very likely. Like it was, for me, it wouldn't be shocking if I ended up dying young because dot, dot, dot. Like, not even that I was clear about what the dot, dot, dot was. Like
Right.
now being 42, I can reflect on, oh, I was watching, like you said, I was watching things that glamorized people who died young, lived fast and died hard, and were famous, and really put them on a pedestal. Only the good die young, kind of. Well, that was a song.
Right.
And then and then all of the other sort of media that was coming out about the life expectancy, like of uh of black men, and then just like
And black
Yeah,
people in
I
general,
think
just black people
black
in
people
general,
in general, black people
disease,
in
sickle
general. So
cell,
yeah, I
you
was
know what I mean?
taking,
Like all those
yeah,
things. Yeah.
yeah, I was taking. I think that might, if that played a part for me. Um, yeah,
Yeah, that's interesting. I do remember in those times that they were putting out a lot of statistics.
that
It
was
feels like there was a lot of statistics coming
Mhm,
out, especially
mhm.
about, black people compared to white people, people of color, and it was sickle cell and all these different things and cholesterol and diabetes and
Yeah,
which is
and
so
violence.
prevalent, but you just hear about it. I remember hearing about it a lot more then.
Yeah, I
And
mean and they still talk about that stuff,
hmm
but now there are more like black people and people of color in positions of power to say, hey, wait a minute, like let's talk about these things differently. Let's focus on prevention, both like disease prevention and also violence prevention and intervention. So, but I mean, but we find ourselves in an even more heightened state of media where young people are, you know, seeing at a much more overwhelming rate than we were, seeing folks who were their heroes, succumb to violence or early death, through addiction as well,
yeah,
Um, yeah. But again, I think that like there has been some real beauty in being able to see these this cornucopia of emotional responses out of people about about grief. I think that that's the difference between you know previous times and now,
right,
that we just have access to a lot more of what people are thinking, even if we have to sift through whatever is surface or for
right.
sure, you know.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think that, even with, say, like we were talking about earlier, posting something and people responding, there are one or two people who actually go into the private messages and you do end up having dialogue with them. So that then becomes your therapy that you
Yeah,
wouldn't have ordinarily had,
yeah. I'm a private
So
equity person. I
yeah,
definitely will.
so
Like
am I.
I'll hit up somebody I like really, really care about, or if I was a fly on the wall in that situation and I know that they were like really hurting, like, I will like DM them or like maybe, try to go on a walk or something, something,
Right.
you know.
Make that connection. Back to
Yeah.
what you said before. Yeah, definitely
hmm
make that connection.
Yeah.
Uh, um,
That's a really great positive point.
it is. Now,
hmm
some of these people on the list that we were talking about earlier for 2022 that passed away, some of these people, had huge effects on life, pop culture. We have Irene Cara,
hmm
huge,
Yeah,
huge star.
what makes me so emotional is about Irene Cara specifically. I think that like being an 80s baby and being really attached to people who are like 10 and 20 years older than me and who are artists, and what Irene Cara represents for them.
Right.
Um,
Excuse me. I said Irene Cara, like Spanish, but
is it
Irene
Cara
Cara.
or Cara? I don't
I
know.
don't know. She is
Let
Spanish, so I don't know. People,
uh,
it's like Ariana Grande. People say it's Ariana Grande, but I don't think it's Grande. It's
what do
Grand.
you think?
She's
You think
not,
it's
she's not Latina. She's Latina Italian, but she's
uh,
not.
well, if
Anyway,
she's Latina Italian, then it would be Grande, I think, right?
should be, but I think she's Grand.
Feel free, anybody in the
Yeah,
comments to
please
correct our
let us know.
pronunciation
I
of
think it's Irene.
anyone's name.
I think she's Irene
Yeah,
Cara,
feel free.
but
Feel free. No, I think that the way that I think that some of the expressions of grief for Irene are beautiful,
yeah,
because in my heart, that gives me feels, because I was a tiny kid when she was making her big splash, but like I'm
exactly.
attached to all these people who were teens and in their 20s and pursuing their life as artists when Irene Cara was making her impact.
Right.
Um, and so they lived her story along with her in their respective ways. I mean, I know folks who went to LaGuardia High School, where
Exactly.
Payne was dramatized from, and those people just that their authentic expression of their process of grief is very beautiful to me.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think that she led a beautiful life and had a beautiful has left behind a beautiful uh, collection of art, through
Influence on American the
and
culture.
improvements,
Yeah,
yeah, and the
absolutely.
images that she leaves behind. So I think that that's um, a very beautiful thing, but unfortunate that she, will not be around until, well into senior years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. Other people like Christine McVie died
Mhm.
recently. Fleetwood
Yeah.
Mac,
Yeah.
she's a part of American culture. Her
She is.
effect. Yeah, she's, I think she's from the UK, but even here in the United States, we loved Fleetwood Mac. We loved Christine McVie.
Yeah. We
Ray
love,
Liotta.
and those are our rock star, those
Yeah.
are our rock star aunties, like, and even like rock star grannies. I mean, people in that generation, and let me get right about like how old she was. So, because I want to make my comment
79.
correct. She was 79. Listen, let me tell you something about these people who were that age. The people so she's like early boomer. The thing about them is that they were the reason why she was rocking out the way that she was for however long she was, is that those people, for me, were not the kind of people who ever thought they were going to get old. And so, if they were lucky enough to stick around and make it through the 60s and 70s and 80s, if they were lucky enough to stick around and they had some kick in them, they were kicking.
Yeah. Yeah, you're
And
right.
that's why we love them. Like, that's why we love them, because they were going to kick, you
Some of them
know?
were living a fast life.
Listen,
Sex, drugs, and rock
listen.
and roll.
Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And the ones who survived, God bless them.
That's
God
right.
bless them. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, and I'm never gonna get old. And
That's right.
the ones of them that figured out a way to balance it, slow it down, dry it up, dry it out. When whoever figured it out the right way, they stayed around and they rocked out.
Right.
And they shared about their experiences. They
Hmm.
shared about their ups and their downs and their mistakes and their triumphs. And I think that that's why we love them. Like, that's why we love those
Right.
folks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Other people, Ray Liotta,
Oh,
Paul Sorvino,
yeah.
Ivana Trump.
Ivana. What she must have seen.
Right.
What
I.
she must have seen. I
Hmm.
mean, I cannot imagine a day in that woman's life in the 1980s. Like, I just cannot imagine what that must have been like to marry into and have children with that crazy,
Right.
with that, with what she has seen,
Well,
and I what she
they
has what
they
she,
did a
I
little they
can't
did
get
a
over
little special on channel 5, Good Day New York, and they
it.
went inside her house because it's up for sale now, and I
Oh
think
yeah,
it's like 2.5 or 6 million or something. It had to be more than that.
it's
But
gotta be more
the
than that.
lavish
That's like a
lifestyle,
studio in Brooklyn now.
right? The
No, I'm just
studio in Brooklyn, the lavish lifestyle that that woman had,
kidding.
it's incredible,
Yeah.
incredible,
And just
incredible.
like, I mean, just what she had to be in rooms with.
Right. Just the art alone, you know, I can't even tell you.
Well, I'm just talking about like the things that were happening
Oh,
in
the
and
things that were
around.
happening around her. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, the things that were happening around her life. I mean, um, and with her and Irene Cara, like, they were both around my father's age, and who's very much alive and well, and he's great, all that stuff. But what strikes me is when folks die and they are similar ages and they've had a global impact, yet they were living in completely different worlds.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I think that the access to all the information we have about all these different people's lives is like something where for me, it reminds me of how many different life experiences there are happening in the world at any one moment. And I mean, even in the case of like Irene and freaking Ivanka in the same town.
Yeah.
I think she was always, I don't know if Irene always lived in New York, but like, I don't know. I mean, Jesus, like just think about how different
How
those two
different the worlds were. Yeah.
are,
Very different.
in such a short proximity of space. But yeah, Ivana Trump.
That's interesting. But I think the bottom line of it all is, social media and media in general has connected us all in a way that allows us to feel for people. So we know them better. 30, 40 years ago, we didn't have TV. So we didn't have podcasts. We didn't have interviews. So people didn't know these celebrities. They would hear them on a vinyl. You could hear them on a record.
Yeah.
But you didn't know anything about them.
Maybe.
Right. People, you didn't have a big fan base that you were influencing. So when you died, the impact wasn't as great.
Yeah. One celebrity death that kind of hit close to home for me, actually, literal home. He was in my home. Coolio, who was also born around the time of my father and passed away this year.
Right.
Every time he would come through, I'm a native of Louisville, Kentucky, and my father does a lot of like logistics for folks who come in and out of Louisville doing various like performances. And so Coolio would always come through. And I think I may have met him like once, but the point is, people have really big lives, even people who aren't celebrities.
Right.
And so the other thing that's really beautiful to me when thinking about a person who has died is over the course of their life, like what are all these beautiful little touch points that they had with people, and what good stuff, what good vibes are lingering.
Right. Yeah.
That's really beautiful to think about. That's really something to cherish about someone who may not be with you. And like I said, it's a little piece of something that you wear, like a little patch of fabric, a little. That sounds really morbid, like I'm gonna wear you after you die, but a little bit.
No, it is. If you
I
wear it or it's inside.
Sure it's either through like something that someone said, like a saying or a way of being, or even a memory that'll replay over and over again. Like those are little pieces of folks that you adorn yourself with to like literally improve the quality of your life.
Absolutely. That has shaped your life.
Yeah. And I think that it improves like your mental health in a way, to take whatever is of value from a person that is no longer here that you may be missing, to add value to your lived experience. I think I think that's really beautiful.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree with you more, and revel in the fact that you have that memory, you have that piece of them that you can use on a daily basis.
Be having my pieces.
That's right. Well, guys, we want to know what you think about grief, and if you enjoyed this conversation. If you do, please like this episode, share it with your friends, jump into the conversation with us. Where can they find you, Stephan?
I am Stephan Antony Beasley. You can go to stephanantonybeasley.com to connect to my work on a deeper level. And you can also connect with me on Instagram and Facebook, Stephan Antony Beasley. And as well as on YouTube, there's a couple of playlists, one of about 100 performances from the last 15 or so years, and a series that I did from 2020 until 2021 called Songs from the Stairs. You can check that out. And that's where you can find me.
There you go. Love that. And you can follow the show at OneMicNite. OneMicNite is spelled ONEMICNITE. Also, check out OneMicNite going back to the live series where it shows Global Soul 236 Underhill in Brooklyn, New York for the live jazz every Sunday at 6 p.m. Check us out. We're going to be live streaming that, so you can check us out this Sunday. And you can follow me at Marcos Luis, MARCOSLUIS on everything. Everything you can find me.
Oh, a ting sounds good. That grapefruit joint. That's a lot of sugar, though. That's a lot of sugar, but that ting sounds good.
Also, you can listen to the audio of this podcast at OneMicNite Talk on all digital platforms. Go to anchor.fm/OneMicNite Talk, and you can show us a little love and support there too, if you like, if you know what I mean. Happy holidays, everybody. We'll see you next time. This is OneMicNite Talk. We are out.
Peace. Bye, y'all.